Hey everybody, we're going to do a rainbow colored tray. I've already mixed the resin and I mixed it for 6 minutes. That you want to go ahead and do your stopwatch and hit start after you've mixed for 6 minutes. Super important with any technique where you're trying to get an effect in your resin. Today I'm using Counterculture DIY medium viscosity artist resin, green and yellow label. This is my go-to for all resin projects of any sort. Do all of it with the medium viscosity. When you start mixing it, it'll be cloudy, but after the 6 minutes it will clear up and you'll have some bubbles, but we're actually going to let this sit for a few minutes while I talk to you about everything we're going to do. I'm working with a 13-inch silicone mold, 2 coaster molds, and these are about 5 inches. Make sure everything is clean, dust-free, no little specks or crumbs or anything. Last time I used the very last video, I had some inks that really were strong and got on the silicone and it will stain. But I wanted to show you, you can still clean it out as much as possible with alcohol and it will take some of that pigment out, but it will stain your mold. So that's something just to be aware of. The mica today I'm using is White Crystal by Etsy Funshine Color Shop. All the links will be below my video. The white will also have Pinata White alcohol ink and Armor Art pigment paste, which is made for resin. I'm going to put this back just so I don't drop stuff in my mold. I'm going to drop in inks on top and then we're going to make our white pigment paste and that'll go in later for the 3D effect. And I'm using Bray Reese Lavender, Sky, Kelly Green, Pinata Sunbright Yellow, and Pinata Pink. The pink does not come in the 9-pack, but you can order it separately or find it at an art supply place. And I have a little bit of magenta that is in the Pinata pack, mixed with a little bit of white that's in a bottle in case I decide to use that. And I also have some little some large confetti glitter that's kind of rainbow colored. I mixed a couple of different ones together and I'm sticking a little bit of resin into this just to make kind of a little paste for it. You just drizzle just a tiny bit of resin into it and that makes a little paste that you can drop your glitter in when we get to that point. Got a cup here that we're going to put about 3 ounces into that's going to be white. I mixed a total of 30. I'll put about 2.5 to 3 ounces in these coasters. So that'll be 5 to 6 ounces. The rest of the resin will go into the tray mold. And it holds probably at least 32 ounces, but you don't need that much. If you put 24 ounces or so, it'll fill it over halfway full. It'll be a good 1/2 inch thick when you get the top coat on it, and that's all you need, and it ends up being about 3 pounds or so. It's pretty solid and heavy once it's cured. Let's go ahead, put a little bit of resin into these molds for the coasters. Just trying to eyeball it to make sure they're about the same. And then over here, this is a 5-ounce cup. But I'm going to go for about 2.5 to 3 ounces in this cup, and that'll be our white. So let's go ahead and mix the white. And the Armor Art white, we're going to take our stick and dip it in, and I'm going to wipe off the edge of the other side and leave just that little dab to go in here. And just scrub your stick against the side of your cup or up at the top and get all that pigment off and make sure it's fully mixed in. You can also, instead of a spoon, you can also use a stick and just put it on the tip of your stick. I'm going to put in basically about a spoonful of the sparkle white and then the Pinata White alcohol ink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I just picked a random number. We'll see how it goes. That looks pretty good. It's got some shimmer to it, and I'm just going to set it aside and we're going to wait on it to warm and do its thing. We're going to go ahead and pour the resin into the mold. I'm going to take a piping bag, put it into a 5-ounce cup. I'm gonna put my white in this. I haven't been using a piping bag, but I want to do it to maybe get a little bit more control. And then use your heat gun on low to get rid of any bubbles. And with alcohol that you spray on, you can spray it now, you can spray it anytime throughout your project. If you spray alcohol or put alcohol ink on top of your resin, you want to give it a little time to intermingle with your resin before you torch it. So if you've just put alcohol ink or alcohol and you want to still pop bubbles, use your heat gun. Don't torch it because it might flame up a little bit. I've had that happen. It's just a precaution to take. The tray mold here is probably 2/3 of the way filled up, so it's probably got, by the time we add the white into it, it'll probably have about 24 to 26 ounces of resin in it, but I'm pretty sure it holds 32, but I'm not positive because I never fill it up all the way. It's a thick mold. We're at 14 minutes, just giving my white a stir, and it's not warm yet, so you just like to keep an eye on it with your time. And I made it kind of you don't want it to disperse a lot, so I made it kind of a thick, barely any resin in it, just it helps the glitter kind of cling together. Okay, so we're going to start, I think, with the sky blue, which is a lighter blue. So we're going to see if it's enough pigment once we put it in. The last one I used a deep purple and it just took over the whole piece. So I wanted to go with colors that were a little less bold. And you see how that disperses out? It's a lighter blue. Okay, and then I'm going to do my green. I'm going to come back and add blue every few bits of areas. So I do have a lavender. Put some right there in the middle. And you use less ink in the coaster because it's more condensed and it all will get really vivid and deep, so you want to use it more sparingly. I'm just trying to get the colors a little bit more into the resin. And I'm doing it very gently. I'm not scraping the bottom. You never touch the bottom of your mold with your skewer. So compared to the last video, this one is way more mild as far as the colors, which is a good thing. Now that I see how the coasters are doing, I am going to come back. I have a lake blue, which is very strong. We're at 23 minutes right now. And the white is not, I can kind of feel a little bit of warmth, but not much. So we're not even close to being ready on that. I had a drop of magenta. Sometimes you can dip your fingers in and get some of it out before it goes like totally crazy. I'm going to do a little bit more magenta right there in the middle. So I'm going to go around out here. Got the flame on low. Okay, so you saw me kind of going back and forth, adding a little bit here and there, more alcohol ink. And right now we're at 30 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in my piping bag. Push it down and twist. Get it nice and tight, and ball that up in your hand so it doesn't drag into your resin. It's pretty warm, so we're going to go ahead and get busy. Cutting the tip off. Don't do it over your resin. Okay, so we're going to start in the middle. Okay, now you need to shift it down for the coasters. I'll come back one more time on the outside. I want that white all the way up to the edge. Okay, and you know that it's pretty much at a good place when you put it on your resin or in your resin, and it doesn't like immediately sink. It's kind of still suspended in the resin a bit. Let me zoom in just a bit. I don't know if you can see that very well. I'm zoomed in a bit just so you can see this one. And we're at 35 minutes. So I'm going to take my torch. You have some areas that are like disconnected or whatever, you can use your skewer. Okay, so we're going to drag into the middle. So I'm going to do 12 sections, so I'm going to do 2 in between each of the quarters. Go ahead and do these real quick. And do 6 on these. And I'm going to come out to a point. Alright, now I'm going to... This looks different from that. That's always the case. It generally doesn't look exactly the same because of the size and the condensed part of the being a smaller shape. You can spritz with alcohol, and that gets rid of any surface bubbles. And we're going to cover it. And we're going to come back and look at this beautiful thing, because I just know it's going to be beautiful in about 4 to 5 hours. See you then. Hey, okay, it's been 5 hours. I have a good feeling about this one. The coasters look a little funky, so we'll see how they look. Okay, so they went pretty pastel, but no blobs. So that was a good ratio for the white and the mica and the alcohol ink. So let's see what this looks like. Are you ready? Oh, pretty. Oh, that's pretty. So there it is, laying on kind of a white parchment paper. You know, if you put it on a table, you'd see the wood through it. I think I'm just gonna leave it. Do I want a background? I don't know what color it would be. I like to look through the camera too with the knobs. There's some gold action going on in there. There's silver. I've got plastic on this turntable. That protects your pieces from getting anything else on them. I mean, that's a more vibrant side. I like that. I don't have a really pastel looking one, so I'm going to go with this Or I could just top coat it and not put knobs on it. Maybe I'll make this one reversible, which is not what I've done before, and not put any knobs on it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I used Fast Set. It sets up and starts getting tacky, and working time is 10 minutes. I say 10 to 15, but 10 to play it on the safe side. And you can touch it within an hour or two. It's cured. So I'm going to do the bottom side and the top side of these. I don't care for that side, but they could use either side of it. Mix 6 minutes, equal parts A and B first and then A. And then I'm going to put like a little puddle a couple of inches wide. And this is what I do usually every time I make trays and coasters. Do my low temp heat gun. That helps with air bubbles and makes it more movable. I'm going to use my silicone brush and make sure your hands are totally clean, the one that's holding the coaster. And I'm just going to pull it out from the middle to the edges and do it in a sweeping motion. And that it's thick enough to where if you're doing it with a soft enough touch, but quickly, it will coat the top of your coaster, not go over the edges, and just be the perfect amount of a top coat. It just gives it a glassy look and a little bit more depth. So just making sure I get to all the edges of the coaster. Okay, so the rest will go here. And then because I have it on a turntable, which needs to be at least as big as your tray, so you have full support, because I've only had this curing for like 5 hours, and when you put Fast Set on it, which is warmed up, it's a very fast acting chemical reaction. It's warm and it will make your piece warp or relax if it hasn't cured fully for like a couple of days. And because I'm kind of doing the process quickly, you need that extra support of something underneath it to really support it and keep it totally flat. So again, I'm just using that sweeping motion from the middle out. Might be a little too much. I'll have to see how it does. So I'm just kind of making a paste in the middle with the multicolored glitter. So I'm gonna pour resin and then go around. Covering it, and I'll be back in a few hours to do the other side with a coat. Okay, it's been a couple of hours and it is cured. So there's the one side, and then it's going to be reversible, and then I'm going to top coat this side. So I don't know if you can see the difference in the depth of it when it's got the glassy coating on it. I'm going to put parchment paper down on this freshly cured side because I don't want anything to make an impression or mess up the undercoat side. Okay, I've mixed about 4 ounces of Fast Set just like on the other side, and I'm going to put a little bit in the middle here, dripping on my hand here. I'm going to spread that out because I want to add some glitter in that area. So I'm going to put most of it down, save a little bit for the end. Again, 10-minute working time and an hour or two to cure. So I waited 2 hours for the other side, and now it's this side's time. I want to lighten it up a bit from the jewel tones that I used. Get more pinks and yellows in there. A little bit of color popping through. Alright, so I'm going to cover this and I'll show it to you outside, and it'll be reversible.